Well, it is 9:45, and we are not going to waste any time. So, if it's all right, we're going to start with a word of prayer and carry on. Father God, we are grateful to be here this morning, thankful that you love us and that you have allowed us to be here in this place. I'm thankful for each person in this room that has decided to come and to just hear about ways that we can more effectively cross some cultural barriers and reach out to the Spanish-speaking community here in the U.S. and abroad. Pray that you bless our time this morning, that you would encourage us, fill us with your Spirit, and guide us in all things that we need to do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, I'm going to give just a very brief history. How many people here have heard of the Herald of Truth?
Heard of what?
The Herald of Truth. So almost all of us. I've talked to a lot of people, and reputations are something that are really important. Reputations have to deal with what you're known for. I've talked to people who said, isn't that a publication that was super condemning? And I mean, I've heard the gamut on things, and I thought, well, I didn't know what the Herald of Truth was prior to 2023 when I was asked to come on board as part of the staff. And so I didn't know what the reputation was, never heard of it. And so I've learned a lot about who we were. I wanted to share some of that. But one of the questions I get asked most often is, what does the Herald of Truth do? And again, I'm going to try and be real brief and get into kind of the meat of what we're talking about. But last year I was in Tennessee, and I talked to a preacher over there. He said, hey, I got to tell you a story. 30 years ago, I was down in Florida, in Orlando, and this guy was with the Herald of Truth, and he was talking about all the things they did. And this woman raises her hand, and she goes, I need your help. And he said, yes, what can I do for you? And she said, I need you to help me find a man. And I said, whoa, no, we don't do that. And she goes, but I've recently been widowed. I'm financially secure. I can take care of it. A good man's hard to find. And he said, we don't do that. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I said that made you think we do that. And so the next week he was in Oklahoma, and he's giving the same spiel about the Herald of Truth, and he meets this guy. And he said, I've recently lost my wife. And this guy starts scratching his head and goes, I'm just going to share this story that happened last week. You can do with it what you want. He tells him a story about this woman that he meets. And this guy had been in the oil field, very wealthy, successful. So he flies down to Orlando the next week to meet this woman. And a month later, they got married. And it was super, super neat. And I said, well, that's a really cool story. I appreciate you sharing that with me. I'm going to share it with everybody because that's not what we do. We do not help people find mates. But it was a neat thing that, coincidences. So the Herald of Truth was founded 73 years ago now. It'll be 73 later this year. And started on the radio with evangelism, went to television, got open some doors in Spain and then Cuba. And now we've kind of come full circle to really looking more about how we can effectively evangelize in the U.S. And every ministry and human and business goes through three pretty significant areas or phases in life. And one of those is survival. My wife and I, we had 3 kids, 3 and under. And we barely made it. We survived. And it was one of those things you pray every day that just get us through this day. And the Herald of Truth has had those moments where for years people said, are they still in existence? Like, I don't know what they're doing. And part of that's reputation. Part of that's, a lot of things. But then you get to a place where you want to be successful. And success oftentimes is seen in productivity. It's seen in money. It's seen in how people see you. And you want to be seen. But what we are trying to do is to be significant, because significance is what is remembered when you're not here. And success is short term, because when you're gone, it doesn't matter if you're successful or not. But significance is the impact, the imprint you leave in the lives of people, and the goal is to be significant for the church or for the sake of Jesus. And so as we think about the country we're living in right now, the fastest growing population in the U.S. is the Hispanic population. And right now there are roughly, depending on which Google site you go to, about 60 million Hispanics living in the U.S. And what I tell folks is what used to be a foreign mission field is now a domestic mission field. And we don't have to go outside the U.S. to evangelize. The struggle a lot in the U.S., I think, is most Americans know who Jesus is. and they don't know that they need him. Or there's not a huge desire in a lot of Anglo-speaking places. I mean, how many times have Anglo churches in the last 6 months, year said, we need a guy to come in here and tell us how to share Jesus with people? I mean, how many times has your church on the English side of things said, let's get us somebody here and do an evangelism workshop? It's not as common. And it's not that common in Spanish either, but we're finding it's a growing desire. And so out of that, Mission Evangelized Spanish America was born. That was in 2023. Our goal as a ministry right now is to establish or enhance 100 Spanish-speaking ministries by our 100-year anniversary in 2052. And back in 2023, when we started this in January, our goal was 5. We thought we've got a lot of time in front of us, and we could get 5 churches that we could either reach out to or that reach out to us that said, hey, we need a Spanish-speaking ministry here. There's a lot of Hispanics in our community, and this is what God did in 2023. He said, I'm going to give you 5. That's what you asked for. We got 5. We thought that was successful. And so in 2024, we said if we could do 5 more, that would be phenomenal. And so this is what God did in 2024. Isn't this fun? Now, I don't want this to get political, blue and white and all the stuff up here. I'm apolitical. I don't talk about politics. I was going to joke when I got up here, hey, we're going to spend the first half talking about politics. I don't do politics. We were so short-sighted on the need that exists in the U.S. to help the Hispanic church. And there's a lot of things we're going to look at today that we've learned. I stand to learn a lot from you guys, because anytime I stand in front of a group of people, there's always more wisdom in front of me than there is in front of the group. 100% of the time that's true. And so what we want to do is help this grow even faster. But the only way that's going to happen is with the help of all of you guys and everybody across the U.S. that sees the need to meet this growing, what I would call problem or opportunity, however you want to look at it. And so as we look to help people, the question we ask is, how is God going to accomplish this, not how are we going to accomplish this?
Correct.
Because I can't do anything. I have a great team that works with us, but it's God that's doing it. And the first thing that I tell people is it's going to happen slowly and it's going to happen quickly. And so when I meet with churches, there are a lot of things we go through, and there's, I think, 3 in here that represent different churches that are part of our Mesa network right now. And what's really neat is to watch each one of them is so different. Everybody is in a different place. They have different tools and assets they can use. And when I tell people slowly and quickly, the slow part of it is, I'll give you an example. In Leander, Texas, guy, you're smiling. Do you know Leander? Oh, very good. So in Leander, the church over there said, hey, we want to start a Spanish-speaking ministry. Marcus Stenson's a friend of mine. And so I started visiting with him. Then he put me in contact with their leadership there. It took 50 weeks, to the day, from when he reached out to when they had their first service. And so it was a long and slow process to get to where they wanted to just get started. And lots of meetings, a lot of development. And so October 6th last year, I went over there. I had their first service in Spanish. It was a room probably half the size of this one. They had no expectation of who was going to show up. There wasn't an empty seat in the room. And it was because we were able to get in the community, tell them what we were doing. The next week, they had to move rooms. They had another separate chapel in their building that wasn't being used, and they met in there. Now, not everybody has, again, the same personnel, the same luxury, same resource, like I said. But it was a very slow process to get them to a place where it was like, boom, there it is. And so you can kind of look at growth as 1 + 1 or 1 × 3 × 3 × 3. It just kind of depends on your plan there. As we develop slowly and quickly, for a lot of people, when you have that first service, it takes off in such a way where every week you're doing this, like we have all these processes in place, and we need people, and we have a lot of things we got to take care of. And so once you get it going, sometimes it goes real fast. Mm-hmm. And so what I try to encourage people to think is, don't be in a rush to have like an end goal. The goal is always to share Jesus with people,
Right.
100% of the time. And there are a lot of ways people do that. And so the first part of what I do with churches, when I think about helping the Spanish-speaking community, is a church will reach out, and word of mouth is awesome. Because that map we looked at just a moment ago, I've got one guy in Florida who said, I know 15 churches in Florida that need your help. 15 Spanish-speaking churches. I've got a guy in Oklahoma who said, he sent me a list of 10 the other day. So what was 45 at the end of last year is very quickly going to become maybe 70. I can't talk to that many people every week, in addition to the other things we have going on. And so we'll look at some of our other goals with kind of our staffing stuff we're going to be dealing with. But the plan. What is your plan? When I work with the church leadership, we come together and they say, we want to help the Hispanics in our community. Well, what is your plan? What is your goal for outreach? And what I mean by that is, are you seeking to become a bilingual church? Do you want to completely bring forces together? That's something that you guys do, right? You have a bilingual church. There's other churches that say, no, we want to have our English service here, but at the same time have our Spanish services. Our class times will overlap so kids can be in classes and the parents can have some more one-on-one time with fellowship and with adults that we can teach. And so there's lots of ways you can do that. Or they say, we want our services to be separate so that our Anglos can enjoy their English stuff, but then they can also come to the Spanish. And the Spanish, if they want to, can come and put their English into practice and come over here. And I tell people, there's no wrong way to do this. Everybody's got a different set of, again, resources, plans. And I've dealt with a lot of situations. Unfortunately, racism is very real in our country, even in the church.
Yes.
And I've dealt with some folks that I thought, in the first church plant we did in Louisiana, I was nervous a guy was going to bring ICE to the church. And I had an email from the elders, and they said, we need you to talk to this guy. And I was like, well, somebody needs to talk to him. And so I met with him, and all he wanted to do was be heard. He wanted to know, what are we doing and why are we doing it? And so I explained to him what our responsibility as a church was and is to this community. And I had lunch with him. The next week he showed up at our Spanish service and gave a $100 bill to me and said, you help one of these families. So that's the difference in just communicating with people and explaining what is our goal here and what is the responsibility of the church. And again, I'm not going to get into politics because I don't like politics, but I'm going to share something really neat that this Mason Network is doing Monday night in some of their regular meetings. But the plan, we got to figure out, what are we trying to accomplish here as a church, as a body here in our community? And then the second thing that we look at is product. We have a plan. And now we need to know what is going to attract the Hispanic community to the church. And I want this to be a little bit interactive. So if you think about your own community, and maybe you're already part of a Spanish-speaking church, what is the greatest, or what are the greatest felt needs for the Hispanic community where you live?
Ask that question again.
What is the greatest felt need in the Hispanic community where you live?
I think it depends on the area or
Your personal area.
yeah, it might.
Because it changes from location to location. So in El Paso,
In El Paso, we have an English teaching English citizenship, including Bible. Plus, we just started a prison ministry because of the area where we are at.
so they have English classes, immigration classes, help with immigration, and incorporating the Bible
Absolutely.
in all of that. What else? What do you think people need in the Spanish-speaking community around you where you are?
Need a safe haven.
Certainly need a safe haven.
Security. Yeah.
Security.
They really need one now, really.
I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. The church has to be a safe place.
We have a large number that comes to our food pantry.
Yes. And that is such a real,
Yeah.
tangible, felt need. People are hungry. And do you think it's easier for Hispanics right now to find work? Are they chomping at the bit to get out and work? Some of the best workers I know are now afraid to drive.
Yes.
You can't provide for your family if you're scared to work.
Florida is, with some of their new laws, that's really big.
Yeah.
I don't know what this need is, maybe, I'm sure you do. We have Latino brethren that they don't have the food they need, they don't have the income they need, et cetera, et cetera. And so we know the community is saturated with the same thing, but because of their pride and what they might think is shame, because gringos are wealthy folks and we are here, whichever way we're here, then we can't take from the food pantry, we can't ask, we can't go there. And
I'm going to look at some of the concepts that you're talking about in just a moment when we kind of get to the
a lot of
end.
dynamics there.
Yeah.
In the case of our bilingual church, we provide a place where a multicultural family can come worship together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Community. A lot of people are missing community.
I would say, like, we were talking, like, to be heard, communication. We have a large Spanish-speaking community within our community, and, you know, my wife's a teacher. That being able to communicate for their children is like a definite, like, something, you know, we see. I mean, we're starting Friend Speak to help that communication, like, you know, conversational communication with the Spanish-speaking community. When I presented it to the superintendent of the school district, her eyes got like huge because they don't have enough, you know, people to translate. And I mean, we see the need that, you know, they want to be heard and they want to be able to communicate for their children just as much, you know, for themselves as what we've seen that really big in our community. So
Yeah. Did you have your hand? One of the greatest felt needs that I saw when we started a Spanish-speaking church was community. And even when we started, and this kind of lead into, after we figure out what that product is going to be, whatever, you know, you guys have mentioned several things, you got to figure out your personnel. Who is going to help develop this product and be a part of this plan? And the greatest need in the church right now is volunteers. 100% of the places I talk to is volunteers. Like, who is going to help us teach English? Who is going to help us man the food pantry? Who is going to help us? And then you fill in the blank with whatever that ministry is going to look like. And so we've got to develop personnel. The Spanish church that we planted, the first one, I started with a couple. I was at a gym working on my computer. This has been almost 10 years ago. And this guy, maintenance guy, came up, said, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I help train teachers and preachers in Spanish on the internet," and kind of explained a lot of what I was doing at that point in my life. And after getting normal, I said, "Hey, Alejandro, what do you think about if we had a Bible study at our church in Spanish? Would you come to something like that?" And he lit up. He's like, "Yes, I absolutely would." I was like, "Great." So I started with just him and his wife, and they had 2 kids. And for 2 years straight, it was me and them. Didn't advertise what we were doing. It was just all about helping them come to know Jesus. Well, they knew all the stuff within 6 months. They could teach you everything, but they still had not committed to, you know, a life with Jesus. And so one day I asked them, I said, what am I doing wrong? What's the hold up? And they said, "We love you. You're not doing anything wrong. There's just no one else here. There's no community."
Yes.
I thought, well, I didn't want there to be until I figured out if you guys were, you know. And so we opened it up from there. And in a matter of 6 months after we told the community what we were doing, we started offering ESL classes, lunch every Sunday. And this was an operation that we were going through. Grew from 4 to 50 in 6 months. We were offering something in the community no one else was doing. And the church grew in an incredible way there. And I wanted it to get even bigger because it was even manageable there because even the Hispanics were helping a lot of the stuff we were doing. And so I talked to Alejandro a little while later. I said, "Hey, you guys keep telling me you're going to bring people, but they never show up." And they said, "We invite people all the time." And I said, "Well, what do you think the problem is?" And they said, "We tell them who you are, how much you love us, that you teach only with the Bible. You don't ask us for anything, like we didn't take up a collection. There was none of that. You help us find jobs, and they always ask, what's in it for him? And I tell them, nothing. He doesn't ask us for anything. He never has. And they say, we don't believe you. Because the angle that they see from the white man, it doesn't matter how much you do to help people, they've been so mistreated living here by other people that they don't believe there are genuine people out there that want to help them. And so our goal within our personnel is for this to be Hispanic-led. Every Spanish-speaking ministry is going to be more successful if the face of that ministry is Hispanic. And I've got no problems, as far as I know, communicating in Spanish. You guys could probably correct me a few times, but I know the culture pretty well. I've spent a lot of time in Central America. But it doesn't matter how well you know the culture, your people, your language. If you don't look Hispanic, you're going to be perceived as somebody with a motive. And that's why our greatest challenge in all of these church plants and enhancements is the supply of Hispanic people that can effectively cross cultural barriers in the U.S. to communicate Jesus to people is a challenge. I mean, in Cookeville, what was the first thing that we talked about once you guys were like, hey, we're ready to go?
Right.
We need a preacher. We need somebody to do the work. And that's a huge need everywhere. We're not going to run out of churches before we run out of preachers.
Absolutely.
And so one of the other challenges I try and help people see is we need to be people that are approachable.
Yes.
We need to be a safe place. And we also need to be able to train people. We need to be open-minded. And one of the things I tell almost everybody is you've got to be flexible. When you're not just dealing with the culture here in the U.S. that's different than yours. You're dealing with a culture that's trying to live inside of another culture. And that's a different element. If you want to see a different culture, go to Mexico, go to Honduras. You'll see a different culture. But it's completely different for people from another culture trying to survive in a culture not their own. And so trying to help them in Spanish, but also some in English, because how many people have met kids that look perfectly Hispanic that speak zero Spanish?
Yes.
A lot of them. And their same parents don't speak English. And you wonder, how do you guys get along in your house? So they understand, but they don't speak, and vice versa. And so how do we help them navigate in their communities in a safe way with the end goal to help the church grow? That's the most important thing, because if the church is not growing, and I don't mean just numerically, that's going to be part of it.
Spiritually.
But how does this group of people really come to understand who Jesus is? And all of the resources you guys mentioned as part of your product is so important. That's how people see Jesus. You know, in Cookeville and El Paso, what is it about your church that's going to draw Hispanics into your meeting place? It's not your preaching, it's not your singing, I promise. You guys can have the best preacher in the world, you can have the best singing in the world, but every church has a preacher and a song leader. I mean, all of them do. Mm-hmm. That's not what brings people. If people came and said, why do you go to the church you go to? It wouldn't be the singing's phenomenal. Our preacher's the best. Well, everybody says that. Mm-hmm. It's what are you saying we want to do to help you? That's what people remember. Man, my family hasn't eaten in 2 weeks. And this church said, we want to feed you. I'm coming back to that. I try to help people imagine if you move to Russia and you're walking around, you know no one. You don't have your family. Somebody shipped you there because they thought it was going to be a safe place for you to stay because things were really bad here in the U.S. And then you meet this group of people and they say, what do you need? I've got to figure out how I'm going to become a citizen here. Oh, we've got people that do that. What else do you need? I don't speak Russian. Hey, we offer free Russian classes. And we're going to help your kids with tutoring. And we're going to make sure they get in the school system and help them in the school system. Who's going to say, no, I'm good? I mean, we're all going to be wanting to be a part and be around those people that are willing to help us. Our first question may be, what does it cost? And when they're like, nothing, we genuinely just want to help you. Great. Now, Also imagine that you show up there and then an American comes along. An American says, hey, we're going to start this group and we want to help you because you don't know Jesus. You're trying to survive over there. You were sent there. And these American Christians in Russia said, hey, let us be a resource for you. Let us help you. You're going to want to go to them before you go to the Russian who you may say, why are they helping me? And so the same is true here with Hispanics is they need that help and we need Hispanics to be helping Hispanics. And so that's our end goal in this is to help create Hispanic ministries that are run by Hispanics. I want to be a helper. I don't want to lead the cause.
Amen.
And so, and a part of this product personnel thing, let's imagine we're offering ESL class. I'll just give you, for example, in Mississippi, we have 3 Anglo churches in the Ripley area that are all working together to plant one Spanish-speaking church. Been working with them, you talk about slow and quick. We've been working, I think, for about a year. And they do English classes, and they're willing to accommodate. They started on Tuesday, and after, I think, 4 or 5 months, the Hispanics said, if you did this on Friday, we'd double in size. So they moved it to Friday. Can you imagine on a Wednesday night, wherever you attend services, it's your regular Bible class, if people said, look, if we did this on Thursday nights, we would double in size. People are just busy on Wednesday. On a show of hands, how many people would say, we're changing it to Thursday?
Yeah.
I don't believe you.
We would.
But the reality is that's not the problem. We are so change averse in the church. I mean, just imagine if you said Sunday mornings, we've been meeting at 9:30 for 50 years, but we've got this group that said if you show up at 12:30, we'll double in size. How many people honestly are going to say, let's just start meeting at 12:30 then? It's not going to happen. It just won't. And it's because we're accustomed to things. We are not very adaptable. So when you look at a ministry outside of your own culture, you've got to be flexible. I've heard more excuses about, well, they just won't show up on time. So what?
That's a given.
Meet them where they are.
Sure.
Don't have a chip on your shoulder because their culture is different. Well, if it was they show up to work on time. I mean, why are we here? I mean, if we're here to show them Jesus and give them grace, how are we doing that? And so we've got to be flexible. As we look at our personnel, we're going to offer, this church in Mississippi, offering ESL classes. They're also offering tutoring. They meet at a Mexican restaurant. They offer a meal. And for their kids, they have childcare. I mean, they have everything on Friday nights that you could possibly want. If you were a foreigner in this country needing to learn English, childcare, tutoring for your kids, and a meal. They do it all. So imagine a guy that says, let's tell the community about this. Let's make a commercial. And this guy gets on screen and he says, come and join us for this. I will watch your children. And imagine the mom like, I'm not leaving my kids with you. This has to be something that, and I encourage men and women, young people, when we offer things, we need to do it in a way that's inviting.
Yes.
And if I see a woman that's going to watch my kids or a man that's going to watch my kids, guess where I'm going? Going to the woman. So we need teams of people. No one person can do all of this by themselves. And so we try to figure out what is our product, who's our personnel, and then what we do from there as a ministry. Like we can do leadership training, but we're not actually doing the work. Every local congregation has to do the work. And so what we do is we will build customized commercials for your church, for your outreach. So I can only produce as good a commercial as the content that I'm sent. And if you send me Polaroids, we're not going to have a great commercial. But I tell people, send me videos, send me pictures. We will write a manuscript for your voiceover. You can be the voiceover. You can be the voiceover, whichever, if you have people that are willing to do it, but we'll make this commercial and then we will blast social media. We'll use things like geofencing. We'll dig into all of the Facebook groups in your area that Hispanics are in, and we will bring people to you. God is going to do that. In Green Bay, some of you guys know Diego. He does a phenomenal job up there. He's helping lead the Mesa outreach as a whole. And they grew from 4 Hispanics and 38 Anglos in a year and a half to 38 and 38. They had 4 Hispanics when they started. I went up there, visited with them. What do you guys want to do? We really need a bilingual preacher. And they said, will you move to Green Bay? And I said, absolutely not. It's July. Of course you would ask me right now. I'm not a dummy. And there's no way my wife's moving up to Green Bay. But I made some phone calls, and part of what we do as an organization, we help churches find preachers, and it's hard. But found Diego. I went to school with Diego. In fact, I think Cookville called him and said, hey, Diego, how you liking Green Bay? And the church got nervous because they heard about it. Anyway, so they grew from 4 to 38 in a year and a half. That's the power of offering the community something that no one else is offering them. And so they grew very quickly, and they're still growing. They do ESL classes, they feed them, they do soccer clinics in the community because Diego played soccer in college. They use the skill sets they have to help show the community why they're there. And it's a beautiful thing to watch God do what he does. The church in Leander, we met for 42 weeks, set a launch date like 8 weeks out. 6 weeks before we started, this guy shows up on a Sunday morning named Carlos Jaramillo. And he said, hey, I saw you guys singing a bilingual song on your online service, and I thought I need to go check this place out. And so they just had sprinkled some, half and half songs in there every now and then in their service. Carlos had been leading a house church full of Hispanics, but he didn't know there was a Spanish-speaking outreach in their community. And so he was a preacher, volunteered. He's a mechanic, I think. And so now God just brought them a preacher that didn't need money because he already had a job. And he said, I don't want money. He said, I'm doing this anyway. And so their church is growing in great ways. And that's just God saying, look, if you'll put the wheels on the car and you'll start moving this thing, watch what I'm going to do. And it may not happen now. I've got a church in Hot Springs that are on fire. 2 months, they had one person on the 8th week show up for English classes on Sunday mornings. And I'm trying to help them see, sometimes it takes time. Like hey, we're going to do this thing, and they started right away. I said, maybe we need to do some more personnel development. We may need some more resources before this thing takes off. We may need to meet on another day during the week. I mean, what is our personnel and our flexibility within ministry? And again, everywhere is different. We've got to trial and error. We've got to see what's working, what's not working. And that's the beauty of this big Mason network. They come together every month, 2 months at the latest. They don't go more than 2 months without meeting. Really excited this Monday night at 6. They've got a couple of immigration attorneys that are supposed to be there. And they're going to do just free Q&A. Best practices, what are you going through, what's working, what's not working, how can we help? That's the greatest felt need in the last couple of weeks. Unless you're living under a rock, there's some really hard times for Hispanics in our country. One of my dearest friends, Esteban Valle Garcia, came here on Nicaraguan humanitarian parole. And so he's here legally with his wife and his 2 daughters. He doesn't leave his house without a passport and social security card now. Because if you don't have those things, and for any reason somebody's like, hey, I need to, they may take you without question. Whether you speak English or not, you may be a liar for all intent for them, It's a scary time to be living here. If you're not a U.S. citizen, how do we respond to that? Again, I'm not going to get into the political side of that, but there are a lot of things that we need to be aware of on how we can help. I'm going to shift gears just a little bit as we think about what are some things that we can provide your outreach that will help you be more effective in crossing some of these barriers that are cultural. Sometimes they're technology. Sometimes there's things if your church had would be more effective that we're just not seeing. And we've been very blessed in the last 6 months to develop relationships with LCU, ACU, Freed-Hardeman, Harding, Lipscomb, that have students that are bilingual, some Hispanic, some not. But we really want to help the universities produce people that want to get into bilingual ministry when they leave. And the best way to do that is by saying, hey, you're a junior, you speak Spanish, would you like to help this church for a summer, month or 2 months, whatever works. Each church is going to have their criteria for what they want in a person. It could be a male, it could be a female. Could be 2. It just kind of depends on what the church's needs are. And I'm asking the churches, so if you guys would like an intern, I need that criteria. So when I interview potential candidates, I know if they would be a good fit or not. I'm working hand in hand with the universities to produce these students, and it's going to start this summer. And I had an interview with a student from Oklahoma Christian the other day. She's just graduating in May with teaching English as a foreign language as one of her degrees. And her Spanish professor said she is a gem. And one of the neat things we're going to be able to do is with these internships, one, they're going to be paid internships for the students. If the churches can pay for them, great, it's $1,000 a month. But if they can't, we're going to provide them either way. We're not going to let money be a reason that the churches are not getting what they need. But like I've got a church in Florida right now, the church in Green Bay, and one in Oklahoma that said, please send her to us. I've described her, they want her. And part of it is like they've got to have housing, and they're going to need transportation. And what I'm hoping, the church in Florida, they have a couple that I think just turned 70. They're retired. They speak very little English. That's what these students need. They need a safe place that they're going to get a lot of cultural experience. They're going to get their Spanish in practice. And then the church is going to have a list of, expectations, responsibilities of, we really need help with ESL classes. We'd like to do 4 a week. Great. You've got somebody that'll do it now. We need help with social media. If there's a college student that doesn't know how to use social media right now, I don't know what. It just would be very uncommon. And so all the resources these churches need, they need a boost during the summer. We're going to be able to provide that. And part of the long-term goal with that is, one, we want these interns to work with people to show them when they leave how they can carry on what they're doing. 2, we want them to network in those churches so that if this is an accounting major that speaks Spanish, they can go work with the church, and if they meet somebody that has an accounting firm, that person say, hey, when you graduate, I'll hire you as an accountant and you can continue helping our church. The network of the church is one of the greatest assets that it has. And if we can help university students find networks where they can get a job but then help in ministry, the church is going to grow in the next generation as a result. If we don't do that, the church is not going to grow. It's going to struggle. And so we want to be that hub for all the resources churches need for crossing cultural barriers to help Spanish-speaking outreach. And then part of that also is having a more bilingual staff. When I came on board, I was one of 2 Spanish speakers. Our other Spanish speaker is 63, and he's also a full-time preacher. And so I'm always looking for more people. You remember the map. We are at, right now, I think 58 churches that are saying, hey, we need something. Hey, we've got something going. Or they're already blowing and going, like in Green Bay. And there's a mixture of all of that in that group of 58. I can't manage all of that. And so I've got Esteban right now who is calling 23 of those churches weekly, unless they say, hey, once a month is fine. Things are going well. We want to hold the hand of every one of these ministries to where if they ever say, hey, we need this, great, we've got it. We don't want to leave them like, it's kind of like sometimes we baptize people like, good luck. We don't want that at all. And so part of this is going to be discipleship. Part of this is going to be Monday morning, how did Sunday go? And what can we do to help you this week? And the answer may be nothing, but we want them to know the help is there if they need it. And so developing a bilingual staff, one of my goals is to find 5 in the next probably 2 years, Hispanics that are already in ministry that said, you know what, I can help you, and then we can say, look, we're $1,000 a month. We're going to help you and your family with some of your cost of living, and I need you to manage these 5 churches, and each week send me a report that says, hey, these 5 are doing this, these need a commercial. Because one of the other things we do is we provide a website for all of our churches. They have a customizable website. We will update it however they want, but we'll manage the content for them. That website will have preacher training resources on it that they can study at their own pace. They can create their own preaching school locally with the courses that we offer. There are all their contact information. There's Bible questions and answer pages on there. So they have as many resources they want on that page. And so as we advertise to the community what they're doing, we can help them with their social media, their web content, all the things a ministry could need, we can offer so that they can worry about relationship building where they are. Because I can't build relationships for all of the churches where they are. But they can. So we want to be helping them to do that. Briefly want to mention, if you want to get into short-term mission trips, we go every year in June to Honduras. This is my favorite week of the year. I love everything I get to do. This is it, though. This is it for me. And we've got a great property down there, super safe. Our toilet water's filtered. I mean, you can't go wrong. It's in Santa Ana, about 45 minutes south of the Capitol. I tell people, if you get sick on our trip, it's your fault. We have a kitchen staff down there, great food, very gated, safe compound we stay on. And then we go into the village and work hard during the day, come back, praise God at night, and go to bed. It's an awesome trip. If you want more information, you let me know. But I always want to tell people, if you want to go, we've got 55 signed up for our summer trip right now. I can take up to 130. Like, we have a great place to stay. So if you want to go, I can give you more information on that. I want to come back to here for just a moment. When you think about your church, where you attend, whether you have a Spanish ministry or not, have you been in the survival stage before? Because I think that's about where the church is right now as a whole, as we're trying to figure out how are we going to survive. And success is almost one of those things where we count numbers of people, maybe we look at our budget, we see the things that in many ways are not why we're here. But as we think about significance, when you think about your life, how many people know Jesus because of the church where you are? That's the goal. Mm-hmm. The sad reality for almost all of us is we are all within 100 years of being forgotten. Every single one of us. Jesus is the reason why we're here.
Amen.
And there are going to be Hispanics in the U.S. right now that come to know Jesus. They get deported.
Yes.
And when they go home, what do they need to remember about the American church? That's what's so important right now in this outreach. Our job as a church is not to ask everybody for documentation. It's, how can we help? How can we help you right now in this moment? How can we help you to survive in the U.S.? I've told you guys, for us as a ministry, the most common question is, what does it cost? And if your church says, look, we need a Spanish ministry, but we don't have a budget at all for it, how can we help? We're not going to not help because of money. And so if you have something you want to help grow, we want to be the people you call to help. Now, if you have a budget for it, every one of these churches costs us about $5,000. And so we've got some churches that pay for 2 churches because they have the budget to help other people grow. And some don't. And so it's a balancing act in a lot of ways. And people say, why is your cost that high? Well, we offer everybody a website and geofencing and commercials. And, there's a lot of costs associated with that. There's trips to these churches. Anybody that wants a bilingual devotional book, I brought these. I've got just a stack of them here. You're welcome to take them. But we offer a lot of printed resources too, and I mail them out for free. If your church needs something, we're glad to send that. Again, we want to be a resource for every church. I'm going to take questions in just one moment. I'm going to try and get through this because
I just have what is geofencing?
Oh, I will explain.
Don't have a clue.
Yeah, no, I'll explain that in just one
Thank you.
second. Let me see what else we. So geofencing is targeted marketing, and so if you put an ad on or just a post on Facebook, the only people going to see that be your friends and maybe the friends of your friends, and that's it. If you put an ad in the newspaper, the only people who are going to see it, people that read newspaper, probably not very many people. And so what we do is we'll create flyers, ads, commercials, and then the best way to explain geofencing is if you go to the store and you buy toothpaste, and then you go home and you get on social media, what do you immediately start seeing? Toothpaste ads, right? And you think the government is following me, they know where I've been, and what happened was Colgate went into Walmart, around that toothpaste aisle, and they drew a digital circle. And every smartphone that goes into that aisle, in that circle, they get pinged. They pay for permission to send your phone ads. And so the government's not following you, it's just advertising on the most targeted level. And so what we do is we produce content for your church to advertise your ESL classes or your childcare, your whatever that is, and then we will say, where's the highest populated area of Hispanics in your area? Say, oh, there's a market over here. There's 5,000 people every weekend here. We'll draw a digital circle around that area, and all 5,000 of them, all of them that have smartphones, when they get home, they're on YouTube or Instagram, whatever, your commercial is going to pop up. And they're going to, free English classes, So the commercial needs to start with something that catches their attention. And then when they click on it, it'll go to your website that we've built for you that gives all the information about what you're doing. Now, what we can't do is guarantee these people are going to come to your church.
Right.
What we can do is guarantee a lot of people will see what you're doing. Because even if you door knock, you can't guarantee every door you knock are people that's going to come. But this is the easiest way to target people where they are, and that's on their phone.
Wow.
Yes.
And so,
Thank you.
yeah, no problem. Great way to let people know. And that's the greatest cost association to what we do, because you pay for those geofencing ads. We pay to have the commercials customized. Again, we're going to do everything we can to help you if you don't have a budget for it. But we also want to be able to, help you. So I tell people all the time, there's two kinds of people in this world. There's helpers, and there's people that need help. And when you think about Spanish ministry, everybody falls in one of those two categories. At some point in every one of our lives, we either need help or we need to help. And in whichever area we find ourselves in, we have to be approachable and we have to be willing to approach others. It's so hard for Hispanics to approach us right now in our country and say, I need help, because they're scared. On top of that, it requires a great deal of humility to ask for help.
Right.
I mean, how many of us really want to walk around with our hand down? I don't. That's my worst trait, hands down, is pride. I want to be able to do everything on my own. I don't want to have to ask my parents for money. I don't want to have to ask my siblings for help. I want to be able to tell everybody, look what I did. Look what I can do on my own.
Yes.
And I think that's one of Satan's greatest tools in our lives.
Absolutely.
Just thinking you can do it on your own, because then you see Jesus on the cross, you're like, I'm a pretty good guy. I got this. And the point of grace in the Bible is not who needs it or who needs it the most. It's that we all need it. And that's the same with help. At some point, we're all going to find ourselves in that position. So we've got a few minutes left. I think the next class starts at 11. This was supposed to end at 10:45, I think. But I'll take questions. I've got some other things I'll share, but are there specific questions about outreach in your community or specific experiences or things maybe that we could address?
What is the website for Mesa?
Mesa is MESA.US. So memesa.us. That is like the templated website. And then if you hit like /Leander, LEANDER, you'll see their website that we customized for them. In fact, I'll take questions, and when we're done with questions, I'll show you the website up here that we built for them, and we can kind of get an idea of what we're
See
doing.
that Mimi thing?
So MESA.US. I'm gonna have to,
Leander is a congregation, is it?
yes, LEANDER. I didn't anticipate doing this. I should have been more prepared.
Well, your main website's Herald of Truth.
HeraldofTruth.org is our website. So and the Me Mesa website's linked to that.
Yeah, I was looking for the name.
Oh yeah, HeraldofTruth.org.
Remind me of what the MESA acronym is.
Mission Evangelize Spanish America.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Chase, while you're typing, is there an overseeing eldership?
Herald Truth?
Yes.
No, it's a 501c3, and so it's a nonprofit organization. We've got a board. When I came on board, and they asked me to serve in this role, they said, we'd like for you in the interview process to share a vision for what you'd like to see happen, which was when I shared with them the 28-year plan that I'd like to see carried out. And I asked them for a 28-year contract, and they said no. But they typically, the organization, you get a 3-year run at it, and then they kind of see what's going on. So, but I fully intend. I had somebody ask me yesterday, do you plan on doing this, long term? I said, as long as they'll let me. I mean, I left my heart in Honduras a long time ago. Fell in love with the Spanish culture, and it's people say, could you live there? If anything ever happens to my wife and kids, my parents are not going to be happy with me, because it's going to be, I'll be in Central America somewhere. And doing this. Let me show you guys just real quick what I was talking about. It may be a little slow running because it's connected to my phone, but every website we create for people has this page here. Cursos Bíblicos Gratis. It's a free Bible training program. So if you have a Spanish outreach and your church says, hey, we'd love to offer a Bible training program for our community, course by course, diploma when they're done. There's written material, there's audio, there's tests. It's all prepared for you. All you got to do is have people. You can push play. Real simple. Courses on the Christian home, courses on how to become a Christian. I mean, everything in between. Get rid of this thing here. This right here is a Who Are We page, and all it says on that link to that is we're simply Christians, nothing more, nothing less. We're here to share Jesus and the Bible with you. No association otherwise. Connect with us is just how you contact us. We put your name, address, stuff like that on there. This is a page with YouTube channels, the acapella music in Spanish. Again, all the resources you could need for outreach and ministry are on there. And then this Bible Q&A is just very, as ministers, oftentimes we get asked questions, and the right answer is, I don't know. There's a lot of questions I'm not sure, and this is a great resource to just give you a point of view. Larry White, I worked with him for 15 years, one of the best human beings I've ever met. He now has dementia and doesn't do anything as far as ministry stuff goes. It's not good, but he taught me a tremendous amount. There's thousands of questions and answers here. Like, why does Adam have a belly button? It's a joke, but it's on there. And there's a way to respond to those kind of questions, in a very caring way if people are, genuinely asking you the question. So we customize this middle section different for everybody. And so right here on your página principal, your homepage, it's going to be welcome to Mesa and Leander. And then it's going to have whatever times you meet, whatever services you offer, whatever information you want on that page, we're going to put there for you. And here, so when we run a geofencing campaign, it's going to be an abbreviated commercial, and it's going to link to this page. And so when they get here, they go, oh, okay. And then they'll see these other commercials. These two are customized commercials, and then this one is a generic commercial. Oh, okay. On the YouTube commercials, sometimes they're a lot bigger file size, and we put up safety stuff on all of our stuff at home, so I'm not allowed to access YouTube. Why, I'm not sure. But I think my son's account is logged in. But anyway, let's see if this one will play. There we go.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Saludos y bendiciones. Mi nombre es Carlos Jaramillo y mi esposa María Jaramillo.
Y queremos decirles que la iglesia de Leander sirve a nuestra comunidad. Tenemos el banco de comida en el cual tú quieres, y si tú puedes ayudar, puedes venir y ayudar a nuestra comunidad. Esperamos verte pronto. Hasta luego.
Well, if you didn't hear that, that was louder than I expected. But that's the kind of thing that we'll do for churches, so that it's them, it's their voice, their face, and we can produce stuff like that. I won't go through all of them there, but they click on here, it goes back to their homepage. And what we can do with their websites also, we can create little apps for their phone, and so it's very easy for them to share what they're doing with other people. Ads with QR codes, everything kind of links directly back to where they can find the information for the local church there. So,
Okay, I mentioned too that we have Latinos, they're different nations, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
What do we do now in order to get you involved?
My card, Jenny's card is in here. I brought these for anybody who wants to take one. It's got our latest newsletter in it from January. This right here is the information about the internship program that we're doing with students. Jenny's card is in here. I've got cards up here as well. If you want to be involved with Mesa, I'll be here till noon. I've got the other one. If no one else shows up at 11 and y'all want to continue to, if somebody wanted to meet, hey, we're here. How do we get to here? That's what we're here for, today. But take my card, call me, text me, email me, and be glad to visit with you further about how you guys can utilize resources we have.
We're from Middle Tennessee, and I just want to say thank you for the help that you provided for our team. And we told our church about 6 months ago, our leadership wanted to start a Hispanic ministry, and you kind of helped walk us through things and answer questions that we didn't know we had. So thank you for being available to us and meeting with our team by means of Zoom and whatever. And I appreciate your truthfulness, your clarity, and that, it's helpful to be able to help if you've got this in your budget, but you're available if we don't. So thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you guys. I'm really excited to see what God does at College Site. I think it's going to be neat.
In 1995, from New York City down the eastern seaboard to Miami, 20 million plus Spanish-speaking people at that time, with only one congregation that supported themselves in 1995.
Yeah, a lot has changed in 30 years.
And you could see then that, and I go back and look, throughout the United States, because the Spanish-speaking people are the fastest growing minority in the United States. And for whatever reason, God is changing the demographics of the United States. We, the church, are going to have to stand in the gap and get it done. God's going to get it done with us or without us.
Yeah.
And we need to make it possible for as many as possible to hear.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Brother, are you going to be talking about some congregations that may be interested in kind of wanting to become a bilingual congregation?
We can delve into that. I can share experiences and other people, part of the Mason Network, that are doing that. There's certainly challenges, but there's also blessings, that come with it. And so we can, I want to honor, I think 10:45, you guys are supposed to get a 15-minute break. So if you guys want to carry the conversation into 11, or I know there's a lot of other good classes, and truly I appreciate you guys coming in here, because I know there's other places you could be. So I've got cards up here. If you want to go to another class, but you want to talk later, let me know. We'll set up a Zoom meeting and get together.
I'm trying to get somebody to be in this class so I can put some responsibilities on.
Oh, bring them on.
I'll be gone for a little while.
Very good. Well, thanks again for being here, and I'll be here if you guys have any questions.